Should I work for a small or large company? How do I prepare for a product development interview? Do I have the right skill set? These are all questions that might be swirling around your head when deciding on a career in product development.
Try to put themselves in the position of that company. Again, go back to what products they make and what are the different things they might ask to get done when they're in a specific role.
Meet Michael Sharp, Director of Research and Analytics at the Heartland Food Products Group. Michael has over 13 years of experience in research and development, leading new products from concept to commercialization.
Be as involved in the food science program as I possibly could. And I really think that benefited me as I was able to.
Michael graduated from Utah State University with a bachelor's degree in food science and has a master's degree from Ohio State University. Working as an R&D manager, Michael has explored the many sides of R&D, and in this interview, he is going to address some of your burning questions. So in this episode of the Food Grads Podcast, you will learn what a research and development director does, the different kinds of roles in R&D we're going to explore, like product development.
And so there's a problem and it needs to be solved. And a lot of times the best way to solve it is through.
Michael will, of course, cover his career journey and how he got to where he is today. He'll also provide advice for product development research interviews.
Because every company defines that a little bit different. A lot of times the lines are very blurred.
And we'll be looking at the differences between small and large companies. So let's listen to our interview with Michael.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited to be on. And like you talked about, I've always been wanting to reach out and have opportunities to share my experience with others. I felt like I've had a great career and have hopefully some okay advice for people that are young in their careers in the food industry. And so this is a resource I wish I had when I was in school. And so, yeah, it's a pleasure to be on. Thanks for having me again. Director of Research and Analytics at Heartland Food Products Group. So we are the maker of the Splenda brand. My journey into the food industry actually started when I was maybe 10 or 11 years old. So at the time, my favorite dessert was banana cream pie. And so I asked my mom to make one for me for my birthday, but she was a single parent and just didn't have the time to do that. And so she picked up a frozen banana cream pie from the store. And let me tell you, it was not as good as a homemade fresh banana cream pie. And I was just definitely very disappointed. And it just got me thinking and curious, is like, why is this not as good as like a fresh banana cream pie? Like what's the difference? And how did that come to be, and just the whole process of how a product is made and developed. And it just got me very interested in that. As I got older, I was telling someone about this and they said, have you ever thought about food science? And at the time, like lots of people, I'd never even heard of food science. It's not something I'd ever even considered or thought about. And so I looked more into it, and I was able to go in as an undergrad at Utah State University in food science. And, one of the first things I did is I just got as involved as I possibly could. So I did undergraduate research, I got internships, I was very involved in their food science club and just tried to, be as involved in the food science program as I possibly could. And I really think that benefited me as I was able to really dive into as much as possible and take advantage of as much as possible with my undergrad degree. And my internship led into full-time employment at Casper's. They're an ice cream company in Utah. And then from there, I decided I wanted to get a master's degree. So I ended up going to Ohio State University for a master's in food science. And I was lucky enough that my professor let me basically pick what I wanted to do for research. Had done ice cream, and so I was interested in that. And so I actually picked a project where I was looking at vanilla and how it's perceived in different food matrices. And specifically, I was looking at ice cream as a food matrix for it. And so with that experience and that education, it led me into my first job out of grad school at Nestle. I was in their applications group where I was working on developing new products for Dryers, Edie's, or the Outshine Fruit brand or Outshine Fruit bars, and Skinny Cow were the main products I worked on. And so that was really fun and exciting. I enjoyed that a lot. Um, uh, Kind of one of the pivotal moments really in my early career was um, I noticed that because I had launched a few products that were out in the market, and I had done some other type of development work, and I noticed that my colleagues, they were actually a lot more excited, and kind of what drove them was launching new products and seeing them in the market and getting really excited for that. And I think a lot of people are the same, and that's great. For me, I like that and enjoyed it. But what was really like motivating for me, what I really loved is discovery and learning new knowledge, and being able to find something out that nobody else had ever found out before. That was really exciting for me. And so I ended up moving from their applications group to what they called their product technology center. And in that role, I was able to be more research minded, and specifically, I was able to take technology that I had worked on and apply it to the many different ice cream markets that Nestle had at the time, including Canada and North America, all of North America, and Europe, Asia, South America. So I was able to go to a lot of different places and see a lot of different ways that they made ice cream. And that was really nice. I enjoyed that part. I didn't really enjoy the travel part of it. I have a young family, and they were younger back then, and it was hard to be away from them for long periods of time. So eventually I moved on. I went to Dean Foods. They're based out of Colorado, and or their R&D department was anyway. I started off kind of my first experience outside of just ice cream. I was actually doing fluid milk as well as cultured milk, and then I also did some frozen as well. I started off in their innovation team, and then eventually I moved into a manager position where I was managing their frozen product development team. Unfortunately, Dean Foods was bought out by Dairy Farmers of America, and as part of that acquisition, I actually lost my job. And so that was kind of a bad thing, but sometimes good things happen out of bad things. And luckily, I was very quickly able to find my current employer at Heartland Food Products Group, and it's been a great company to work for. I'm very happy to be here. I started off as a manager over our aseptic product development team. So specifically here at Heartland Foods, we do nutrition shakes, we do creamers, and coffee and tea that we all aseptically process. And so I was managing the team that developed all of those products. And then about 2 years ago, I had a big shift in my career, or at least the start of the shift. I was asked by my boss to help put together a pilot plant for extracting stevia. So one of the really neat things that our company has done is we've invested in our own vertical integration of being able to grow and produce stevia. That we started a farm right here in the U.S. down in Florida, and we'll extract and be able to do the whole process of making stevia. And that was really exciting, but I had zero experience in doing anything like that before. And so I said, sure, yeah, I'll try it. And so I was able to kind of put together this pilot facility, and through that I was able to learn a lot about the stevia extraction process. And kind of since then I've been helping to start up this extraction facility that we now have up and running in Florida. And through that, it helped me develop a whole lot of different skills that I didn't realize that I could, and get in an industry that I didn't realize that I was capable of being part of. And also through all of the different iterations of learning about this process, it pushed me into more of kind of a research position versus product development position. And so just in January, I was promoted to the director of research and analytics here. And so that's kind of the short version of and maybe it was a very long version of my career here. So
That's okay. It's your journey. There's been so many steps, so you have to share all of them. And it's really cool how seeing that mapping of going between the different places to where you are today, and debating on the ideas of product development, or do I like the research side, and thinking even back to the beginning of the journey. You had mentioned that you had found work after school and then you decided to go back and do a master's degree. What was kind of your thought process there? Why did you decide to go back rather than continue working at that time?
yeah, I think it wasn't I think a master's degree was something I was always somewhat interested in. And specifically at Casper's at the time, it was a very, small company, and there wasn't a lot of opportunities to move anywhere within
Mm.
what we were doing. So also at the time, that was mostly a quality role. I did do some R&D work in that role, but I was definitely looking more into like a product development role. And so I knew that a master's would really help me out with that goal. And so that's why I decided to go on and pursue a master's.
Oh, okay, that makes more sense. Yeah, because that was one of the reasons I decided to go back. Was I was also at a smaller company for a little bit, and there was the department was very small. QC was also research and development as well, so that just tells
Right.
you how large everything was. And I couldn't shake the itch to go back to school to do research. So sure enough, I'm now continuing to do a PhD because I really enjoyed the research aspect. But that is also another thing I noticed throughout your journey, is that you kind of teetered between product development and then research. So can you tell me what the differences between doing a research role at a company would be as opposed to something that's more product development?
Yeah, and honestly, it is very dependent on the company.
Okay.
So how people define research versus how they define product development is very like company dependent. And just in general, like R&D in general as what it means is very dependent on the company. So it's kind of interesting. I think it's very important, look at your job description, because that'll help to understand things, because every company defines that a little bit different, and a lot of times the lines are very blurred on
Mm.
what one means versus the other. I think in general though, like um, product development, really in a like the easiest way to explain it is they are the owners of the formula. So they all of the ingredients, all of the exact way those ingredients go together and the percentages, product development owns that. And then a lot of times, really, those functions, depending on the company, could be blurred in different ways, And I
Mm.
think in general, research is thought of as, gaining knowledge and information, or the why of things happen. And also maybe the things that can be more broadly um, applied to multiple types of products or categories or
Okay.
projects. So I think that's
Okay.
somewhat how people think of the difference, but and it just depends on what company you're at and how they really think about it as well. So
Do you think that the skill sets are similar between these different roles that you would need, or there's maybe something that is preferential to being in product development, or maybe there's one that's more preferential to that research side in terms of skills?
Yeah, I think really maybe one of the skill sets is your ability to handle the unknowns. And really, honestly, in any position, like product development or research, more oriented position, you have to deal with unknowns. Like if someone knew how to do it, they wouldn't need you. So
That's true.
you have you have to be able to feel a little bit comfortable with figuring something out. But probably in product development, it's a little bit more near in. Like this is something I feel pretty comfortable. I know how to do, whereas research is, okay, I have this big box of potential solutions that I need to figure out what's going to be the big box. In the industry versus academia, if you want to go like that far, like in industry, we just want something that works, whereas in academia, you want to know why it works. To some degree, like in research, we're getting more towards that understanding the why versus just making something work. But, like I said, even in the industry, there's a little bit of blurred lines on how that works, I would say.
Mm. And when it comes to doing research, and you said one thing that really stood out to me is that you liked the learning of knowledge and gaining. It was more, you like product development, but getting the why, the how is this happening, that excitement and such. When you're learning or you're looking to learn something new, do you find like how does your research process work? Do you find that you just dive into the books and just try to find some kind of patterns, or do you look broadly and maybe look to outside lectures? And I don't know where I'm going, but I guess I'm trying to think of like where your inspiration for gaining that why comes from.
Yeah, I think I don't think of it necessarily like that. For me, it's more problem solving.
Okay.
Uh, and, and so there's a problem and it needs to be solved. And a lot of times the best way to solve it is through answering the whys, like or like, here's the root cause, for example. And so a lot of times in research, you get to go dive a little bit deeper into understanding things. And so for me, yeah, definitely understanding what's been done in the past is important. So, looking at literature, looking at a lot of times in your companies, you have previous amounts of research that were done. And so understanding to the best of your ability what has been done before will help you understand what you need to learn next. But sometimes it's really just looking at it at a more like a step back version of where you're at, of this is the problem that I'm really focused on. But if I take a step back, okay, this is actually what's going on. And these are the different sets of things that could be going on. And then just trying to then maybe you look at the research or what's been out in the it has been done before, and that can help you cross some of the things off, and then it helps you maybe narrow in on what you want to do, and then you can take that broad thing and look really, really deeply at one thing and understand that. And hopefully that's your answer. And if not, you
Right.
maybe have to go back and forth and understand a little bit better. And but yeah, that's what I would say is more of my approach is more of from a problem solving standpoint versus understanding the great complexities of the universe type, but
Okay.
an approach.
I like that. I just think I always am fascinated by just manufacturing in general, going from a pilot plant up to large scale. And one thing that might work in the pilot plant doesn't work in the overall. And I don't know. I'm just commenting on how fascinating I always find it because it sounds like such a difficult job because you think you have the problem figured out, but then you go into the manufacturing run and it worked one day and then the next day it didn't. You're like, what the heck happened?
Yeah. Actually, I have an interesting, story related to that. And one of the things, and I think that like analysis and data can really help with these things and developing new methods that can help you predict what could happen at a larger scale. So, for example, one time, one of the projects when I was at Nestle, and this was way back at the first of my career, was I was asked to bring in a new supplier of ice cream sandwich wafers.
Okay.
And it seems like a very easy, straightforward project, but actually I had been given this project from another developer who was having a hard time with it. And so the first thing I did was tried to understand it better. What was going on was the new company, the new producer of this wafers, they had really done a really great job of matching, the flavor and color and texture of this wafer, but they hadn't considered, the strength of the wafer, how well it's going to process on the lines. And so they brought these new wafers to the line, and they were having tons of problems with broken wafers, and that would jam up the equipment and cause downtime and cause, lots of issues.
Wow.
The line. And so I was able to develop a method that could, predict how well those wafers would work on the line. And it took, going back and looking at the problem a little bit differently and developing some analytical techniques that would help with this prediction. But by doing that, now the company could work through the reformulation process a lot quicker, because they could reformulate something, they could send me, a smaller sample that I could test for, and we could predict if that was going to work. And then we were able to solve the problem and get something that eventually, met all of the criteria. It tasted great, it looked great, it worked on the equipment great. And so that was just a good example of, using data and analytical techniques to help solve real world problems.
That's so cool. With these data analytics techniques, did you learn them during your school time or your master's degree, or was this something that you started to learn as you were on the job?
A little of both. I think that in school, especially going through like a master's program, you learn the importance of analytical techniques, and you learn the importance of just different techniques that can help you in different ways. And then as you go on the job, you learn the more specific ones that are unique to your industry. And so, but in this case, I think it was more of just looking at, okay, this is what I need to learn and know. These are the types of instruments that could help me learn this, and then kind of developing the best method that would help predict things, so yeah, a little of both, I guess.
Okay. That's good to know that you did build it upon when you were working, and because I imagine data is even more important now than ever when you do anything with your work, correct?
Oh, sure. Yeah. No, I think, it's very important to, one is, I've always been cognizant of the garbage in, garbage out, right? Like getting good data, accurate data that really tells you what you're looking for. And then, letting that data help you to make decisions that are going to, be the most optimal possible.
We keep on using the word data, but I guess my next question, thinking about a student, is what type of tools or basic tools should someone have just to demonstrate they have a basic knowledge of data analysis? Is that an important thing for someone to demonstrate as they come into their role as a new product developer, researcher, or is it maybe something that they should focus a little less on and maybe go for soft skills?
No, I definitely think that's an expectation, is that you
Okay.
at least know, basic math and
Okay.
statistics. So, right, like,
Okay.
but I think that it just kind of depends on what type of product development or role you're looking for, on how much that might be emphasized or not. Obviously, within like the research world, we're looking for people who are able to do more analytical things and be able to understand how to deal with that information, but maybe in a more like very basic product development role, it's a little less emphasized. And I one thing I was definitely surprised at, like going into the industry, is the amount of trial and error type of work that goes on. I think that there's some advantage of trying to find ways around that, if you can, because I think you can get to solutions quicker. But to some degree, really, there's not a lot of substitutes for just trial and error, especially like you think about like flavor work or things like that. Like sometimes you just have to try some things, move on to the next thing, and try it, and sometimes that's the best way that someone can get to an answer. I really think that if you can understand it at a deeper level or have some type of quantitative way to measure something, it gets you to an answer quicker. But to some degree, and in some ways, just the trial and error method is sometimes the best way to get to an answer. So
That makes sense. I mean, back to what you had said earlier, that's kind of why they hire you sometimes. If they already knew the answer of how to get there, they would have somebody there actually trying to solve it. So yeah, trial and
right.
error takes a lot of time, I can imagine.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
So, taking a step back, one of the things I'd also noticed from your journey is that you've made a lot of transitions from small to big size companies to even, you mentioned recently that this new role is somewhat different than the ones that you've been doing. I was wondering, how easy has it been for you to transition between the fields of food? So, you worked in dairy before, and now you're more in the sugar realm. Was that an easy jump? And I guess, yeah, was it an easy jump? And how did you make that transition?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. So I originally thought that um, my value was really just in the dairy industry, and so I think to some degree it in order to be able to be flexible and transition, I had to really rethink what made me valuable. So, um, so I have, tons of experience and education in dairy, and I thought for a long time, really, that's what made me valuable. But when I was able to really look at it and think about it, actually, what made me valuable was I was really good at solving problems. I was really good at applying the information I had to making good decisions and to solving problems. And when I thought about it that way, it was a lot easier to transition, those skill sets from one thing to another. And I think that in general, it's a good idea for people to take a step back and really look at what makes them valuable, because and don't get me wrong, like I think the industry still needs experts. They need people who have 25 plus years of experience in a very specific category and have forgotten more than they know type of people.
Yeah.
But I think for most people, like if you just think of yourself in a very narrow topic and a very narrow field, you're going to lose out on some opportunities that could be really great for you. And so just thinking of your skill sets in a different way than just, I know one very specific topic is something that can help people be more flexible and broaden their opportunities, which can be really good for someone's career.
Let's take a quick break and hear a word from our sponsors over at the Canadian Food Innovation Network. The Canadian Food Innovation Network's Food Innovation Career Hub is a one-stop shop for food professionals, students, and employers. The community is home to anyone who's interested in a career in food tech or is actively seeking talented employees for their food business. The Food Innovator Career Hub lets you search job openings, access original content, and connect with a growing community of food professionals and mentors. The Career Hub is open to any CFIN member. A CFIN membership is free, and gives you access to funding opportunities, new partners, and it is the most active food business community in the country of Canada. Learn more about how you can get involved by scanning the QR code on the screen or checking out the show notes to this podcast. Let's get back into the episode.
I like that. I think that's also a little bit of a relief maybe for someone who's listening as well, because when you first start out, you don't have a big background knowledge. You don't have that 25 years of experience. So it does show that you can still bring value in another way that might not necessarily be in long-term knowledge, but maybe you have that flexibility, or maybe you have the beginning skills of problem solving. So that is a bit of a relief to hear.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. And I think that's important, especially in, I think, like the food industry and food science specifically. A lot of times we look at people as, oh, well, they know this category, and I think while that sometimes is important, but oftentimes what's more important is the different ways that they can apply their other skills to that, because you can always learn a category. You can spend a lot of time and effort to learn that industry and that category, and that can come with time. But those other skills are going to really separate you from the people who already know all of that stuff.
That's a good point. And then as well, you had mentioned that you figured out what good values you have, which is you were able to problem solve in that. But for someone who might be starting their career, they might not know what they're actually good at because they haven't worked very well. Do you have any suggestions for someone to figure out to be, what's the word that I'm trying to look for? I'm trying to remember the term where if you understand yourself. That's great. It's eluding me.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure what the word
okay.
You're getting at, but
I guess what I'm just trying to say is, how can someone figure out that they have the skills when they might not be aware that they have the skills? That's where I'm going.
Looking at what you've done in the past and what it took to get to those things, I think that's a good way. For example, someone who's just done their PhD or graduated with their PhD, like that takes a lot of different skills that are important for someone in the industry to have. It takes a lot of effort, and it takes a lot of determination, getting through obstacles, all of those things. So there's definitely things that you've done besides just what you've categorically learned that are going to be important. And one other way is asking people, hey, what do you think I am doing well at? Or what are the things that you think I can work on? It's good to have those type of people who can give you some honest feedback and help you understand maybe what you don't see in yourself as well. So
when you graduated, you had mentioned that, so during school, you were involved in a lot of different things, the internships, the undergraduate research project, the clubs. When you graduated, like after your master's degree, you went into the industry, did you have any other associations you were part of? Because we're talking about talking with different people. So I'm just trying to figure out ways that people could talk to others.
I really didn't. So I wish I would have. I wish I would have taken advantage of those things, or they were made more known to me, but tried to be involved with, like there was the IFT and things like that, but none of those really were, honestly, a big part of my career as I got into the field or anything. So it would have been nice. I think I had really good professors that were really helpful and gave me a lot of good advice, and they were people I could talk to. And I think that was probably my biggest thing. And then when I did get into the industry, I had mentors and people who I could talk to and understand things better from. So.
Okay. So you can also have success in your career if you're not a part of a ton of associations as well. Because I know that that's something that I do always recommend. I mean, it is good to have it is good to be a
Yeah.
part of associations, but it's
Yeah,
not the only
absolutely.
path.
Well, absolutely. Like if you have access to people in the industry, like take full advantage of that. Absolutely. Like, and one of the things I think is just ask questions about what people do and what they like about what they're doing, what they don't like about what they're doing. Like if I had access to like even just this podcast before and the like the tons of interview and content that have already created, it would have been really valuable for me. And even though I'm very happy with my career and how it's worked out, like I often think about, yeah, I wish I would have known more about quality, for example. Like I really think I've met people with very fascinating careers, and there's some advantages to quality that I never really considered until after I'd, well into my career. And just things like that. I think just talking to lots of people is really going to just help you understand what you want to do quicker. And the quicker you can really narrow that down of what you want to do, the better you're going to be able to kind of set yourself up for success in that type of a role.
Yeah, that absolutely makes sense. And I know through the podcast, I've been so happy to do these conversations because I'm just getting exposed to so many different ideas. And obviously, you do not need to have a podcast in order to talk to other people. But even yesterday or last week, you can get from conversations inspiration about things that you never even knew were issues that might be in the food industry. Last week, I was speaking to someone and they were talking about how, so when we think of grocery stores, they need ice sometimes in order to keep things cold, or they need box trucks, and you don't think about how they're taking ice from a warehouse and shipping it to another place just to keep things cold, and that there's this startup that's making ice on demand at a store, so it's works a lot faster. And I was like, that makes perfect sense, but I never even thought about that being some kind of issue that our food industry needs to address.
Oh, right. Yeah. Honestly, there's a lot of fascinating things you find out just getting into the industry. And so, I mean, lots of things like that where it's just really, really interesting. People just don't understand at all, like where their food comes from and how, complicated and exciting, honestly, the food industry can be.
Well, speaking with technologies, is there any technologies that are, because as we hear a lot about AI right now and you hear a lot about all these different buzzwords and such,
Sure.
and I'm curious if if there's any new technologies that are affecting R&D right now that maybe you're using more, or maybe that are on your radar that you could be potentially using.
There's a lot of really fascinating stuff out there. Like, I really think the biotechnology space is really interesting. Like, creating animal products through fermentation is just something that I think is piques my curiosity. So, and that's kind of fun and exciting. But my answer to this is going to be maybe not so exciting, but I think it's important. Like, I think one, it's not really even a trend anymore because it's really out in the everywhere is clean label and clean label product development. So, as a student in food science, I really didn't learn that much about that topic. And in the industry, it's something that I've, had to do every single position I've been in. And, you go to school and you find out all these really cool technologies that have been advanced over like hundreds of years of all these ingredients that solve these big problems in the food industry. And then you go to your first job and the first thing you're asked to do is, hey, take this ingredient out because consumers don't like the way it sounds.
Right.
So it's like, oh, geez, like I just learned how important this is. I just can't take it out. What am I supposed to do? And so that was kind of like an eye-opening moment for me. I wish I had learned a little bit more about that in school. And maybe now they do have courses about clean label processing and they're like natural food ingredients that can be substituted for other ingredients or whatever. But at the time they didn't. And I think it's just something I had to kind of learn. Anyway, I think that's probably something it's like people are going to have to learn and understand is okay, now instead of using, this ingredient, I have to substitute it with this ingredient or this process or something that can help, make the label more consumer friendly.
That's good. Yeah, clean label definitely still continues to be in the forefront. I swear it was that many, many years ago, and it's probably going to still continue to be like that. And I understand from the consumer perspective, you want, you're consuming it, you want everything to be safe for what you eat. And it's on a one side, it sounds like it's kind of annoying for a product developer, but then if you look at it from another perspective, it's a fun challenge. It's how can I
No,
take these new.
yeah, absolutely. Like it is a fun challenge, like like I said, like the 100 years before, my time, people were able to use these other ingredients that were developed and really helped solve the problem really quickly and efficiently. And now you have to work a lot harder, it feels like, to make that same thing happen. But it is a challenge, and again helped me develop problem solving skills, which have been important in my career. And so, yeah, I think it's been exciting, or even a good thing for product developers. The more problems we have in the food industry, the more need we have for R&D and product development, the better off we are in this industry. So
That's a good way to look at it. And it's funny for when I think of product development, it's just a role where you go and solve problems, which people come in. Because I always remember my friend, she always would get frustrated when she had problems come up at work. And then she said, but I can't get annoyed about this because my father always told me that that's why you're here to solve problems. If you weren't here, if we didn't have the problem, we wouldn't be here to solve. We wouldn't have you here. And she always sighed, was like, that's why I'm here.
absolutely, yeah. Yeah, and I mean, embrace it. It's fun. It's exciting. Like when you solve a problem, you learn something new.
Mm-hmm. Well, coming back to, I always like to ask my guests when they come on the show, advice. I know we've talked about a lot of different things throughout the show, but I wanted to know more specifically. So, what advice would you give students that are looking to go into research and development?
The first the first thing is, just do it, embrace it. It's exciting, it's fun. Like I've just loved my career. It's been challenging, but like the food industry specifically is just so relatable. It's something we have to do every day we eat, and so it's just been really a fun and exciting career. So just embrace it, just go for it. I think the second thing, we've kind of touched on this a little bit, but just talk to lots of people and really understand what you are is interesting to you, and what understand the pros and cons of everything. I think that's good. So, listen to your podcast. I'll tell people to do
I
that.
appreciate it.
But eat up as much content as you can of the things you want to do. I think a lot of people, when they haven't considered all of the different realities of a type of career, they won't really know what they're getting into, and to some degree you can't really know until you get into your career. But if you can understand as much as before you go there, I think that's going to just help you along the way. So that's just kind of general advice. Yeah. But are you looking for more specific advice, like
No,
when you're
no,
actually
no.
applying and how to work in the, because
Well,
I can
I
give
mean,
lots of other advice too.
we still have time, and that was actually going to be my next question. Was there anything that I didn't ask you today that you felt that I should have asked and you really want to get that messaging out? Maybe it is to, if they're applying for their job. Was there anything that I missed?
Yeah, I did kind of want to hit on that a little bit, just because I am in a position now where I'm hiring people and in a manager type position, and so I'm seeing people apply and interview with me for the first time, and so I see some of the things that people kind of do that are, I'd wish that they'd had this advice before they came and talked to me. So like the one big advice, like if you're interviewing for a company, is research that company as much as you possibly can. Find out what products they make, understand who they are and what type of company they are. Try to just understand as much as possible. Like, for example, one of the questions we always ask is just when we're interviewing like a new food science, like what's the high intensity sweetener in the yellow packet, so, and it's amazing to me. Well, the answer is sucralose. And I would expect most food science students to know that, especially a food science student that, is interviewing for the Splenda brand, to at least have thought about that or looked that up. And it's amazing to me how many people just don't know that. So, yeah. And that's, it's fine if maybe you forgot it, but at least look it up before you come. And then the next thing people can do is try to put themselves in the position of that company. Again, go back to what products they make and what are the different things they might ask to get done when they're in a specific role. And they can just start to kind of think through, okay, well, if I'm given a project to work on this product, these are the types of things that I could do. This would be my process, is what I'm thinking. And you're probably going to get asked those type of questions in an interview, because the person conducting the interview is really trying to understand how you would do in that role. And the more you can give them the confidence that, yeah, I'm going to know what I'm doing, I'm going to be able to get started quickly, that's going to be the advantage of going in there. And certainly you don't have to know everything. And in fact, a lot of times in an interview, we'll ask people kind of to their limit of their knowledge of what they know and understand. And so you're likely going to get to the point where you just have to say, I don't know. And certainly the worst thing you can do in an interview is just make something up, because that's going to go very poorly. So if you don't know, just say, I don't know. And then have some curiosity, go, and if you didn't know the answer, go and look that up and try to find that out, because there's a chance you could get a second interview and maybe that same question comes up, and, they're going to want to know that you knew that answer. So, yeah, I think that's just some good advice in interviewing and some things that I've seen. So, oh yeah, I think this is another important aspect of people like young in their careers. Try to define what success means for you in your career. Like, it doesn't mean climbing the corporate ladder all the time. Really, it means finding a role that you're happy with, that can provide enough for you and your family, and try to find a way to get in there, to take the steps to be able to get to where you want to go. And it first starts with just being a really high performer in the role that you're in and doing a really good job. And I think actually naturally, if you're really high performer, it'll lead to more opportunities that might be what you're looking for. If it doesn't, then have conversations with your managers. And I know that a lot of people are just in school, so they're not quite in their career yet, but maybe some people are just early in their career. And I think when I was like first starting out, I was always afraid to talk to my manager about my career path and goals.
Yeah, that is scary sometimes.
Yeah, I think, well, one, like sometimes you just don't know, like I don't know what I want to do. And two, sometimes you're afraid that you'll feel like you're not happy with your current role if you talk about what your future role is.
Right. Yeah, that's a concern a lot of times.
But now that I'm on the other side of things and I'm helping people with their career paths, like I really love it when someone comes to me with, hey, this is what I'm looking for, this is what I want to do. And it's really something that I find rewarding, is to help someone do the type of things in their career that they want to do, and to put themselves in those positions. And so, I would definitely encourage people young in their careers to have, frequent conversations with their managers about what they're looking to do and to provide them the opportunities to get there. So.
I love that. I love that you were able to share that, because that's actually a concern that I thought about sometimes when I was working, or even now. It's like, well, if I talk about the next step of my career, my manager's going to think that I'm going to be wanting to like leave them. And then next thing they could be looking at, like, you just think that it'll look ill on you, but that doesn't, it's not necessarily the
No,
case.
absolutely not. Like, and the truth is your manager's been where you were at one point in their life, so they get what it's like to be there and to, and at least a good manager, they're going to care about you and they're going to care about what you want and what makes you happy. And they're going to do their best to put you in positions to make that happen.
I like that. I like that. Well, I'm happy that I asked you what I was missing, because I knew that there were some things that you wanted to share with that. But we are at the end of our conversation, so I'm going to leave it there, because that was some really good advice.
Yeah.
So thank you so much, Michael, for coming on the show and sharing your knowledge and sharing those personal career stories and, just advice, because sometimes we just need to hear these straightforward answers that it's okay to ask questions. It's okay to move around, find success in different ways. It's all good reminders. So thank you so much, Michael, for coming on the show.
Yeah. Thanks again for having me. It's been fun.
Perfect. And sorry, one last question. Of course, the last question. If people wanted to ask you questions, where could people find you?
Probably the best place, just find me on LinkedIn. So you should be able to find me there. And I'm absolutely happy, especially for people young in their careers or still in school. If you just have questions, feel free to reach out, and I'd be happy to have a conversation with you. So
it's amazing. Again, thank you so much, Michael. It's been a great time.
Yeah, thank you.
Michael provided some great insights when it comes to working for a small or large company. If you want to learn more about what it's like working in product development in a small family company, then listen to my interview with Amelia LaPlante, R&D food scientist at Yosso. Amelia is a remarkable person that believes that it's important to have goals, but also to stay flexible with them, because you never know what's waiting around the corner for you.